person in this audience that wouldn't be able to name at least 2 people that they know with breast cancer. However, if you were to ask your grandparent at your age if they knew somebody with breast cancer, they go, Now, those people who know people with breast cancer, anybody? Raise your hand. No people? Okay, so when someone's diagnosed with breast cancer, they're immediately looked at for a genetic gene, or they're looked at for estrogen-dominant breast cancer, right? The word estrogen dominant is going to come up later on. Let's talk about the gene in breast cancer. I'm Cure for Cancer's nutritional ambassador. Only 6% of cancer is genetic in breast cancer. Where is the other 94% coming from? What is going on in our world that we need to start to be looking outside the box? Okay? We've got 1 out of 6 men here in Australia being diagnosed with prostate cancer. Now, this is the kind of prostate cancer, 10 years ago, if you were talking about prostate cancer, you go, oh, Uncle Johnny, he's 86 years old, he's going to be diagnosed, he has prostate cancer, and the doctor said it's not going to cause him any harm, he's going to die with prostate cancer. We've all heard that, right? This is not the kind of prostate cancer I'm talking about now. This 2017, this kind of prostate cancer is happening to young men. 1 out of 6 in Australia, almost in epidemic numbers. And that's not the kind of prostate cancer they're going to die with. That's the kind of prostate cancer they're going to die from. Again, what is going on that wasn't happening when our parents or our grandparents were younger? What's different? Genetics isn't changing that much, but definitely food and lifestyle is. Okay, brain fog. Now, when I say brain fog, people immediately start to laugh or smile and they go, oh, she knows me. I'm in brain fog right now. Oh, is she looking at me? Right? I get it. We're all going in and out of brain fog. I get to work with the top CEOs in Australia and 13-year-olds, right? We all go in and out of brain fog depending on how we've slept, what we've eaten, etc., etc. So we laugh at brain fog, but we don't laugh at this. We've got 1 out of 10 people in Australia suffering from some kind of cognitive or neurological issue. Let's start with brain fog, somewhat laugh on that. Let's walk down the cognitive neurological spectrum. ADD, ADHD, autism, Asperger's, Parkinson's, dementia, early onset Alzheimer's that people are getting now in their 50s. What is going on in this spectrum? All of you will know people in this space. That is alarming when we're seeing people in their late 40s, early 50s being diagnosed with early onset dementia. It is really, really frightening. Now let's just go back to ADHD, which is probably relevant, particularly for many of you, and seeing people with ADHD. People are clinically diagnosed with ADHD, for sure, without a doubt. We've got several of those patients, and I am not against modern medication whatsoever. But we've got the highest rate of prescription drugs in the world for ADHD here in Australia. Why aren't we looking more at what's going on beneath the surface rather than just getting medication? I am not against medication at all. I work with oncologists, gastroenterologists, psychologists, psychiatrists every single day. Love working with the medical profession. But have we looked at what's going on beneath the surface for many of these people? Then we've got this, of course. Well, as you heard Rachel say today, these statistics are just going crazy. We've got 1 out of 6 people, this is only last year, 18 months ago that I put this slide up, 1 out of 6 people here in Australia being diagnosed with anxiety, depression, or some type of mood disorder. But of course now these days, it's 1 out of 4. And particularly with young women. Yes, young men too, but you would see the statistics a little bit higher with young women, particularly between the ages of 16 to 24. Again, what is going on here? These are statistics that we know about, and that's alarming, 1 out of 4. What about all the other people that are suffering in silence? We know that things like anxiety and depression lead to things like cutting, self-harm, alcoholism. We know that. You all know that. I don't need to be telling you that. What is going on that wasn't happening when we were younger to this generation? Or if our grandparents start to hear these alarming rates, they're like, what the heck is going on? Okay. Then we've got this, a whole entire world of tired but wired people. So when I say this, a few people start to laugh immediately and they think, oh no, she knows me so well. Of course, because I used to be you and I used to teach people like you. The tired but wired person who's sitting there in the chair or working all day long thinking, oh, I've got iron deficiency. Oh, I've got glandular fever. Oh, my husband's right. I must be going into menopause and I'm only 28. No, maybe none of those things. Maybe you're getting into bed and you're not having a proper night's sleep. So we know that tired but wired people can be cranky people. We know that. We know that tired but wired people aren't absorbing education or material the way that they should be. We know that their neurotransmitters aren't refiring. But did you know this? The lack of sleep can change your blood glucose and your blood insulin severely. So Harvard University does a medical study, right? So I try to always point out to things to you that are a little bit beyond of what you already know. Harvard University does a medical study on 18-year-olds, 85 18-year-olds. Their blood pathology is fantastic. Their blood glucose, their fasting insulin, it's fantastic. They're great specimens. They eat well, they exercise well. They change nothing with this group of study except their sleep. They go from 8 hours sleep to 6 hours sleep. And they keep them around 6 hours, 6 hours 15, 5 hours, 5.5 hours. They keep their sleep under the 7-hour mark for, I think it's 6 weeks. They redo the blood pathology. Nothing else has changed. But their blood pathology looks metabolically like they're a 65-year-old. Their insulin and their blood glucose is completely off. Does that mean that we can get blood sugar dysregulation that affects our brain processes just from lack of sleep? Absolutely. So how come people are tired but wired? There's lots of reasons. There could be the fact that people aren't eating enough protein in their diet. So protein breaks down to an amino acid, one of them being tryptophan. Tryptophan is the precursor to melatonin. Melatonin is our sleep hormone. So one of the first things that we do as nutritionists for people that are having poor sleep is we make sure that they are eating protein, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and perhaps a protein snack before bed. Of course, there's things that we can do with vitamins, melatonin, magnesium, glycinates, and there's all those things that I could talk about forever. But the first protocol will always be how much protein is in your diet. So protein. But also, tired but wired can be from the person that is consuming an abundant amount of hidden sugar and not realizing they're having an abundant amount of hidden sugar in healthy foods. And we're going to talk a lot about that. Okay, so I speak in a school probably once a week around Australia or internationally. And next week I get to go to Hong Kong for the Positive Schools Conference in Asia, which is 10 countries. So I feel so happy, full of gratitude that I'm able to be speaking in this space as a former educator. But we did a survey last year of 179 schools, high schools, and we asked the kids, we said to the kids, if you were to have a nutritionist come back to your school, right, what were the things that you would want to be reinforced? What are you looking for in your own wellness toolkit? And these things may or may not surprise you, but this is what they said, 179 schools, boys and girls. So they said, This won't surprise you. There's a vanity aspect of it. They go, how do we get good hair? Okay, fair enough. It doesn't matter whether you're 13, 17, or 50. We're all looking for good hair. Okay, the next response was they were looking for good skin. How do we get good skin? Okay, no surprise, vanity aspect of it. Then they talked about, I thought this was interesting. They talked about having enough energy to exercise. And I thought that's interesting, that they would have depleted energy or realize that they don't have enough energy to exercise, some of them. Interesting comment. Then the next comment was, of course, to do well at school, to do well in assessments, to do well academically. Awesome, that was no surprise to me. Fantastic. This was a surprise. 87% of the respondents said this: we just want to be happy. I was like, that's extraordinary for teenagers to be saying and writing that down. Like, that gives me the chills. That makes the New Yorkers start to come at me. That's crazy that these kids are craving just to be happy and to feel good about themselves. Amazing, right? Okay, so that's what's going on in your world. Now let's get to some nutritional truths. Food. The simple act of eating food 3 times a day, 5 times a day, can underpin all of these things. It can underpin your hair and your teeth. And if you're talking to teenagers, you start with vanity. You talk about their hair and their teeth. If you're talking to boys, you talk about their hormones. You say the word testosterone and every boy is locked on, right? So the thing is, you start appealing to all their vanity. But we know food affects sleep, skin, heart, thyroid, physical shape of your body, brain and memory, mood and self-esteem. And we're going to go into depth about all of them. I just want to go back very quickly to thyroid, because I'm going to bounce from talking about your own health to children's health. But you're here, you're captive, and I want to tell you this. Thyroid, 1 out of 4 women in Australia, adult women, have a subclinical thyroid condition. These women feel like they're treading water. They feel like they're swimming through a murky swamp every single day. They feel like their energy levels are about here. They feel like they're in brain fog. They could be gaining weight. Their digestion could be slowing. They feel like they're in constant brain fog. They go to the doctor and they say to the doctor, there's something wrong. The doctor goes, I think you have anxiety or depression. Here's some medication. Again, I'm not against that if it's true depression. Absolutely. Ladies, you must share with everyone you know that thyroid condition and subthyroid condition can often appear as anxiety and depression, and it is worth being checked. 1 out of 4 women in Australia. And men, you all know ladies, so share this with people. Men get subclinical thyroid conditions as well, but not nearly as much as women. And again, at the alarming rates at what's going on in Australia, it's extraordinary. So you can get hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. You can get Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition, and you can get Graves' disease, which is autoimmune thyroid. Just a little red flag that I'm putting out there to you. Okay, so, yes?
Is that a blood test?
It's a blood test, yes, it's a blood test. So, okay, so here's the thing. Here is the nutritional truth, the single nutritional truth. Have any of you done the lemon detox diet? Have any of you done the all fat, no carb diet, only drink water diet, eat hot dogs every other day diet? How about the Miami Beach diet? Okay, I'm being facetious, but you know what I'm getting at. There's 1,000 diets out there, right? Only have water but have fruit diets. It's insane. I'm here to tell you that I've researched most of them. I've done most of them myself. And I'm here to tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, from my researched experience, is that nothing will work like this. Just eat real, whole food as much as possible and as often as possible. Things that are not packaged and processed. Now, I live in the real world with you. I've got a dumb dog, 3 kids, loads of laundry. I'm occasionally not eating real food. I'm occasionally going to Guzman and Gomez or Thrive or wherever, or picking up things, right? Muesli bars and stuff like that. But when I am, I'm very nutritionally aware. When I'm not, I'm trying to think about how do I eat in a combination of this. Where's my fat? Where's my protein, and where's my complex carb? This is a key message for today, okay? So if a nutritionist was to tell you to eat slow, seasonal, local, organic when possible, whole foods, slow, S-L-O-W, and eating unpackaged and unprocessed, and to be eating in a combination of these 3 macronutrients, you'd remember for 5 minutes. Maybe you'll remember to 5 o'clock today. But if I tell you why, and you go, well, that so makes sense now. I get it. I'm always going to be the nutritionist that tells the why. So, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I want you to be thinking about where's your protein, where's your fat, where's your carb. And here's why. Let's start with fat. Right? Fat used to be like the most feared word in the English language, right? People go, fat, did she say fat? Did she tell me to eat fat? Is she calling me fat? Does my butt look fat? Right? Like fat, people would go crazy about fat. Now we know that that has been turned on its head. So last year, 2 years ago, I was able to speak with the one of the world's leading cardiologists, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Stephen Sinatra. So Stephen Sinatra is a man in his late 70s, early 80s, and he was one of the researchers in the whole fat scare 20 years ago, when all of a sudden people started to go, no fat, I can't have fat, fat's gonna give me a heart attack, fat, right? So he got up last year in front of an audience of 5,000 professionals in New York City and lots of journalists, and boy, did he eat humble pie. It was awesome. He was so amazing. He got up and he said, you know, I was one of the lead researchers on this whole fat scare. And when everybody started to strip fat out of food and food became tasteless, the manufacturers went and dumped a whole bunch of sugar in. And then 18 months later, people started getting pre-diabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and all. He said, I was one of these people who started all this talk. He said, here's my new book. Puts up his book, and it's called The Cholesterol Myth. He said, fat isn't going to make you fat. Fat isn't going to lead to half the conditions that we thought they were going to. He said, sugar is, but fat's not. So here's what we know to be true around fat now. We know that fat is incredibly important for our brain. So remember when we were talking about this cognitive spectrum of brain fog, ADD, Asperger's, autism, Parkinson's, dementia. One of the first things a good neurologist will do now, before they even give anybody an MRI or do any testing, is they will immediately put them on high doses of fish oil. Because fish oil is all about fat for the brain. Our brains are made up of 65 to 75% fat. Without good quality fats, we do not have the cognitive development that we need. Our kids are being given an abundance of carbohydrates, fast-burning twigs, which I call, right? They're not getting an abundance of fats, nor are many of us getting